welcoming you from Galveston, Texas. And I have with me Jim and Ann Glenn. Jim is our financial expert and Ann is our nutritional expert. And of course, we have the ever popular and brilliant Dr. Lee Ostler from Washington State, our dentist and our NFR2 expert. And we have a very special guest tonight, Russell Mariani, who is a health expert and speaker and educator, who is an expert in digestive health. And he is here to talk to us about how your health impacts, how your gut impacts your overall health. And he'll be talking a little bit about that. He lives in Western Massachusetts, but I just found out he's actually a Jersey boy from Jersey Shore. So, Jersey boy, maybe you should do a little singing for us too, Russell. That would be awesome.
Oh, sure.
Let me start by telling you what we're talking about tonight. We're talking about redox signaling molecules. Now, even though we have a bunch of medical experts, health experts that are involved here, this is not a medical product. It is a product that works foundationally at the cellular level. So what it does is it boosts the communication between your cells and it allows your cells to function optimally. And it also helps to turn on beneficial genes that have to do with your heart, your gut, your immune system, inflammation in the body, and hormone modulation. So that covers just about everything, really. So we're not making any claims. We're not here to diagnose anything, treat anything, cure anything. We're just here to teach you about something that can boost up this signaling that's going to help you have better health, optimal health. And so with that, Russell, please take it over and give us a little bit more of your background. Tell us about the new book that you have out and tell us what we can do for our gut health.
Guys, I think this is going to be one of the most important calls that we've done. And I want people to really get the clear understanding that our life, I'm now 63, that my life up until now, I've done a lot of things incorrectly. And my body's had cumulative effect of my lifestyle that may be catching up with me. And I'm really excited about this call because I think we missed the boat for a lot of people in missing the nutrition, water, rest, and nutrition. And that's why I'm so excited to have you here because you are a published author. You are internationally known. You have helped so many people at Asea. And it's just such an honor to have you here. And you're honestly one of my favorite guests that we have. I'm not diminishing the others, but I just love the way you communicate and you've lived, right, what you're going to teach us your whole life.
Well, thank you, Jim. That's very complimentary of you. And so I've been a health educator since 1980. And in 1973, I had a health crisis at the age of 18. I was misdiagnosed with colon cancer and later was told that I had an incurable condition of ulcerative colitis. I'd have to be on medication every day for the rest of my life and probably lose my colon to surgery before I was 30 years old. And so that was not very good news to an 18-year-old living in New Jersey in 1973. And the very first question I asked the doctor when he settled on this diagnosis of this incurable disease was, do you think this has anything to do with my diet and lifestyle? And his answer changed my life because he said, no, that my condition had nothing to do with my diet. And in that moment, I knew two things. Number one, that he wasn't going to be able to help me. And number two, that I was on my own and I was going to have to figure this out. So good news is that I went out on my own. This was 73, way before the internet. And was very lucky to meet some people who were several years ahead of me in their journey to better health through better nutrition. Make a long story short, I changed my diet. I had been on a crazy diet for about a year prior to this terrible diagnosis, a high protein diet. So I ate a lot of meat and I ate a lot of cheese and I drank a lot of milk. And during that year, if I had any fiber-rich vegetables or even nutrient-rich vegetables. It was totally by accident and not by design. So just by changing my diet, by going back to a much healthier diet, getting rid of that high protein approach, taking a few supplements, my health improved dramatically. I knew I was on the right track. I went back to school to study nutrition. Now back then, you couldn't really study holistic health. It was really in its infancy. So I found a school in the Boston area and started and went to school, went through the whole process. And then in 1980, I started a center and started my practice then. So since then, I've been teaching people basically what, now just this last year, I published my new book. It's called Principle Eating, the No Diet Way to Complete Health, 7 Steps to Total Dietary Freedom. And basically over the last 30, 40 years, what has evolved out of the world, this kind of generalized world of holistic health, is something very specific called functional medicine and functional nutrition. Some people call it integrative, but I prefer the terms functional medicine and functional nutrition. The basic idea is that the body is constantly healing itself. The body is constantly striving to restore and maintain balance and harmony in every organ and system and cell. And this is called homeostasis. The body constantly is aware of what's going out of balance and how to put it back into balance. And the critical factor is, do any of the owners of this body know how to cooperate with the self-healing mechanisms of the body? If we do, then we can regain our health or we can maintain our health. But because we live in a society dominated by a disease care system, we don't have a true healthcare system. Many people don't learn the simple and most basic and fundamental things that they need to do on a day-to-day basis to regain their health and maintain their health. And so we've identified over the last 30, 40 years, 7 distinct and interconnected root cause areas. I'll just mention them briefly, and then we can discuss any number of these. And this is what you're referring to, Jim. What we've discovered is that there are 7 root cause areas for all chronic and degenerative conditions. And if you don't know what these are, of course, then you can't take the action. And you may need to make 1 or 2 changes in each of these 7 areas, and then your body will move into a state of homeostasis. And then you should be able to live long and disease-free. Root cause area number 7 happens to be redox signaling. And for as we say in the Asea community, for so many people, it really turns out to be the missing link. And what I've certainly observed over the last 10 years is that you could be doing everything right in the other 6 root cause areas. But if you're missing the redox signaling molecule part, you either see very little progress or none at all. So what are the other 6 areas? And then I'll be quiet for a minute. So root cause area number 1 is what I call mindfulness. And it definitely relates to what we would normally think of that term, being aware of everything in our surroundings and how it's affecting us generally and how it's specifically affecting our health. So in the functional medicine model of health, when we think of mindfulness, we think of how everything is affecting homeostasis, meaning that every choice we make, everything that we eat, everything that we drink, everything that we take for supplements, take for medication, whether we exercise or not, all the impacts, all the inputs that impact our physiology are either complementary or insulting. Complementary choices drive our physiology towards health. Insulting habits and choices drive our physiology towards dis-ease. And we persist in those behaviors long enough and we'll actually develop a dis-ease. Root cause area number 2 is hydration. Everybody knows you're supposed to be hydrated, but a lot of people drink a lot of water. But what I discovered about 25 years ago is there's a very precise formula. We call it the water cure, and it's based on body weight and activity level. So we're supposed to drink half our body weight in ounces of water per day. So I weigh 200 pounds. I drink 100 ounces of water a day, spread out throughout the whole day. Root cause area number 3 is micronutrient deficiencies. There are 2 types of nutrients. The ones we can see on our plate or bowl, those are called macronutrients: protein, carbohydrate, fat, and fiber. And there's a lot of controversy about what the proper balance is of all the different whole foods. And micronutrients are the invisible vitamins, minerals, trace minerals, amino acids, essential fatty acids, etc. So we need supplements derived from whole foods, and we have a great one in Source with our Via nutritional line. So we need micronutrients, and we need a balance of macronutrients. Root cause area number 5, which is my area of expertise, is gut health. So root cause area number 5 is something called intestinal dysbiosis. Dysbiosis means there's an overgrowth or imbalance of the gut bacteria. And again, we can talk more about that. It's a huge area. And if this ecosystem of organisms is called the microbiome. And everything is downstream of the microbiome. If your gut microbiome is healthy, your immune system will be healthy, cardiovascular will be healthier, everything will be healthier. But if the microbiome is off, and many times, and you alluded to this, Jim, many people in the Asea community are getting started on their Asea journey, but if their microbiome is really, really out of balance, they may see very little progress or none at all. But if they start taking biome and they pay attention to their other habits, then they can really see incredible improvement. Root cause area number 6 is oxidative stress. I once heard a functional medical doctor say that 90% of all adult health conditions are chronic degenerative in nature. And 100% of all chronic degenerative conditions are caused by oxidative stress. So oxidative stress is negative stress. Oxidative stress is at the root of all inflammation. At the root of all inflammation is excess free radical activity. And one of the most important things that redox signaling molecules do is neutralize the activity of free radicals. And so that's one of the mechanisms that we know scientifically that allows the redox signaling molecules to work. And root cause area number 7 is redox signaling molecules. And there is something real called the redox potential of the body, the redox potential of individual cells. And if that redox potential is off, then that cell cannot function properly. That means it can't detect damage when it's occurring, and it can't repair the damage as it's recurring. But if you restore the redox potential back to normal levels, then that cell can not only survive, but thrive. And the same with us. We can not only survive, but we will thrive.
I'm taking notes. I didn't hear a number 4. Somebody else mentioned that.
So number 1, mindfulness. Number 2, hydration. Number 3, micronutrient deficiencies. And number 4, macronutrient imbalances. But typically it's macronutrient excess. Primarily too much processed food, primarily too much refined carbohydrates. Yeah. And 5 is dysbiosis, 6 is oxidative stress, and 7 is redox signaling molecules.
I like your comment there, Russell, about 100% of chronic degenerative conditions are caused by oxidative stress. You know, I've done a lot of research. I've dived pretty deep into this, and I very much agree with that in the sense that you can't really go look at a disease condition without coming across the words oxidation, oxidative stress, oxidants, totally out of balance. And that really is a great segue to the whole redox concept, because that's basically what redox homeostasis is about.
Absolutely. And so if lay people think about oxidation like the paint on your car wearing away, deteriorating, degenerating. That's what oxidative stress does to your cells. The cells literally start dissipating, not functioning properly, aging prematurely, et cetera, et cetera. So, and that's happening because the redox potential of the cell, the balance between the reductants and oxidants are going out of balance. And so when a person starts drinking their Asea filled with redox molecules, that imbalance can be stabilized, and that cell can then repair the damage and get back to normal functioning. So as Anne-Louise Gittleman says in one of our videos, it's not just a breakthrough, it's a game changer. And that's really true.
Russell, how does this affect gut health? Could you speak to that a little more specifically? Because that's kind of your area of expertise as well.
Sure. How does redox molecules affect gut health?
Yeah.
Yeah.
How does it help? How does not having them make it worse, et cetera?
Yeah. So the way I like to answer that is the gut is made up of cells, just like your heart is made up of cells, just like your kidneys are made up of cells, et cetera. The gut is pretty amazing, though. So if you just look at the structure of the stomach or the small intestine or the colon, it appears to be just a tube. It's very flexible, but very long tube, 30-foot long tube, 24 feet of small intestine, 5 to 6 feet of large intestine. But living inside that tube are trillions of bacteria, and literally thousands of trillions of bacteria. And each of those bacterial cells has their own redox potential. And if you're supposed to have 80% of those thousands of trillions of bacteria be probiotics. And the probiotics eat the food that you eat and then generate waste products. But the waste products of probiotics maintain the normal functioning throughout the entire system. And so what happens due to stress, due to poor diet, due to medications, due to environmental pollutants, alcohol, sugar, all kinds of junk food, the health of the probiotics begins to decline, and you get an increase of what are called dysbiotics, or bad bacteria and other organisms. And then they are eating your food, and they are producing waste products that are toxic to the entire ecosystem of the intestinal area, of that microbiome. And so people start to get gas and bloating and cramping and irregular bowel movements and mood disorders and energy disorders and skin problems. Everything is downstream of the microbiome. So these cells also, I mean, all of those cells benefit from water and oxygen and micronutrients, but they also benefit and need a balance of redox signaling molecules. So I've asked many scientists this question, scientists in the Asea community, and the answer is fascinating. The redox molecules know the difference between the healthy bacteria and the unhealthy bacteria. And they feed and nourish and support the healthy bacteria, and they don't feed the unhealthy bacteria. So many people that I've talked to, and I'm sure you guys have all seen this as well, even before somebody takes a probiotic, even before somebody changes their diet, but they add the redox supplements to their routine, drinking Asea and maybe even rubbing Renew 28 on their belly. If they're having digestive problems, their digestive problems improve and normalize just from the redox signaling molecules. So we know that the redox signaling molecules have a direct impact on the healthy probiotics, healthy bacteria.
Well, and the gut is the second brain, is it not? So you have serotonin, and we know in our gene study that one of the pathways is serotonin. And so we already know that if people would just use the redox long enough and the right amount, again, depending on, their condition and their age, that they're going to start seeing changes in the digestion. I did want to comment about the water intake also plays a part in lessening the detox that can come when you get more redox, right? So you drink more water, then it's going to push those toxins out. So you're not going to notice as much of detox. And detox is, of course, very good for you. But when I was studying the right amount of water, if you lose 2% of the content in your body, water, your memory will start going down. You will have an effect on your memory. Well, that's a big deal, right? So
absolutely. The single most important thing anyone can do as they're beginning their redox journey is to be properly hydrated every day. It not only, as you're saying, Ann, it not only minimizes any detox reaction. And again, people have a misunderstanding of detoxification. Detoxification is happening 24 hours a day,
right?
Constantly. Every cell of our body is constantly taking in nutrients, taking in oxygen, taking in water. And oh, by the way, the ability of every cell to take in all those precious raw materials depends on the redox potential on the cell membrane of every cell. So it's a critically important thing. And then all those raw materials get metabolized. So that's a whole other area of activity. And then even if all of the raw materials that come into the cell are perfect, metabolic toxins get produced. So forget about toxins from junk food or toxins from the environment. Even the healthiest cell will produce toxins that must be eliminated effectively. And the ability of any cell to eliminate toxins effectively depends on redox signaling molecules, but it also, as you're saying, Ann, absolutely depends on that cell being properly hydrated.
Now, Russell, we were talking earlier, and you were talking about the hydration issue your whole life, that if you were not hydrating correctly, younger, can you repair that now? Is that something that can be repaired if you start drinking correct water? And could you, because I've always been confused on this, if you chug a lug, is that good or not good? Because I've heard it's not. You should do like what you're doing is sipping. But also after a certain time in the evening, should you stop so you're not up making visits to the bathroom all night?
Yeah, so two good questions there, Jim. So number one, every cell in our body has a life cycle. And some life cycles are very short, like 3 to 5 days, but and bone cells are like 6 to 9 months. But most of the cells in our body are on a life cycle of 90 to 120 days. And so what that means is that no matter what damage has occurred in your life up until right now, if you change your habits and you change hydration and you add redox signaling molecules and good nutrients through Source and our other, and Biome and LifeMax and Omega and eat good food, then the cells of your body start getting a very different message. And as they cycle themselves and regenerate, you can create a completely new body over the period of months and years. In fact, I think Deepak Chopra in one of his books said, every 7 years, every organ of your body will have completely regenerated itself. So all of it create a completely new body in that period of time. Now, in terms of drinking water, yes. One of the things we've found through, and all the people who've been studying hydration and the water cure, et cetera, sipping the water is critical. If you drink 6 or 8 ounces at a time, like you alluded to, chug-a-lug, that water will sit in your stomach, and it takes a while for the stomach to absorb all that. But if you sip 1 or 2 ounces at a time, literally within seconds, the water will absorb through the stomach lining and enter the bloodstream where it wants to go, because eventually that water, we want that water to get into the cells of our body. So there are several steps to proper hydration: quality of the water, temperature of the water, and the rate at which you consume the water. You want to spread it out throughout the whole day. And personally, I do myself, and I advise other people to consume about 90% of that total amount of water between 6 a.m. and 6 p.m. And drink very little in the evening, or you will be waking up, as they say. And just so people know, so this is a quart bottle of water here. I drink 100 ounces a day, so that's 3 quarts plus a few other ounces. And even though I'm drinking 100 ounces of water a day, I do not wake up other than one time to pee. And that one time is usually less than a half an hour before the alarm goes off. So if you do this correctly, your bladder and kidneys will improve in their health and functioning, and it's not going to be an insult to your body. You're not going to be waking up all night to pee. And I know that's a concern of a lot of people when they start realizing they need to drink more water than they currently are.
Okay, something you said was so important. I don't think I've ever heard this. And I think that's one thing a lot of people, they have lost hope that they have any chance of regaining health. But what you just said is that by making the changes with nutrition, hydration, exercise, redox, that you can, right, give your body what it needs to rebuild itself in what period of time?
Well, you can experience a massive improvement in 3 to 4 months, and we all see that, in the Asea community. What I said was that you can literally create an entirely new body in a 7-year period.
Because you're regenerating cells.
Yeah, you don't have to wait 7 years to be completely regenerative. So what you're talking about, Jim, what you're referring to is a specialized branch of integrative medicine or functional medicine called regenerative medicine. What most of us have learned through the course of our lifetime, this concept of degenerative disease. And degenerative disease refers to basically every negative health condition that you've ever heard of, from arthritis to cancer and Alzheimer's and everything in between. But basically what that means is that the cells of your body are functioning less and less well. And so that's a degenerative process. That's a premature aging process. But yes, so what we're saying, what we've discovered through functional medicine, functional nutrition, is you can stop that degenerative process and initiate a regenerative process. When you start giving your body what it wants and needs, it is more than happy to reward you with normal health. And then if you're really serious, you can pursue optimal health. But I like to talk about restoring normal functioning, because for some people, when you use the term optimum, they think you have to be an Olympic athlete or something. But which might be a good segue to the immune system, because I definitely wanted to talk a little bit about the immune system, especially in the context of COVID. And one of the pieces of information that we're not getting or has to do with autoimmune disorders and things like this. So a lot of people get a diagnosis of an autoimmune disorder or an autoimmune condition, and they're told that their immune system is attacking their body. And most patients, when they're given that information, will say, well, why is that happening? And then the doctors will say, well, we don't know. But that is the misinformation. And we really need to work hard at correcting it. And of course, in the world of functional medicine, that type of misinformation is being corrected all the time. So our immune system when it's functioning normally, will protect us. And our immune system, there are about 30 different components of our immune system. And one of the functions of some of the cells of our immune system is to be circulating around the body, constantly looking for foreign invaders, invader organisms, strange organisms, organisms that don't belong in the body or don't belong beyond a certain population. You're always going to have virus in the body. You're always going to have bacteria in the body, negative bacteria. But there's a lot, and part of the job of the immune system is to keep those type of organisms at a level that doesn't cause any problems. That's what a normally functioning immune system does. And one of my favorite books, written by Dr. Gary Samuelson, says very clearly that that any virus, and of course this was written way before the coronavirus, but the different types of coronavirus we've known about coronavirus for a very long time. So he basically said that a healthy immune system can handle any virus. Okay? And so of course what we've seen over the last 10 months, 12 months is the people who are getting serious illness, and unfortunately most of the people who are dying are people with very compromised immune systems. And so yes, we should wear masks, and yes, we should social distance, and yes, we should wash our hands. But if we had in our country, if we had around the world, if we had a true healthcare system, these same doctors would be talking to us every day about what we can do, what we can eat, what we can drink, what we can take for supplements, and what we should avoid eating and what we should avoid drinking to normalize the function of our immune system. And my feeling is, and I know a lot of other people, this is the most important information that we can be sharing to be doing things every day. So we know from the studies that we have on Asea Redox, redox signaling molecules are essential to normalizing immune system function. And we have a study that demonstrates that. So what I'm trying to bring to the table is that, yes, of course, that's true. And thank God for that. And it is a breakthrough and it is a game changer. But we also need to look at these other 6 root cause areas, because everyone eats food, everyone drinks water, everyone exercises or doesn't exercise, everybody sits at a desk, everybody does all kinds of things. And in all those other areas, there are clearly things that we're doing every day that are insulting and harming our physiology in general and our immune system in particular. And there are lots of things that we can be doing every day to support and strengthen and normalize our body in general, and of course, our immune system in particular.
Yeah, our bottle says it works on the immune system, and sometimes people wonder, why am I getting this or that? I mean, look at what you possibly are doing that is lowering your immune system. I mean, every 2 hours of sleep that you lose, your immune system drops by 60%. So are you getting enough sleep? Are you doing, if you look at people's Western diet, they're missing those key nutrients that their body needs. That's why SourceLine is so incredible. It's whole food, and it's not just what you're taking in, but you're actually absorbing the nutrients. And when you pair that with Redox, that's what's helping your body stay well.
Hey, Russell, we have a lot of people that are new or going to watch the recording. Could you, in your words, or maybe you've already done it, but what is Redox? Because I look at the bottle and it says it's a dietary supplement, but yet it has nothing to do with diet, and it's made from salt water, as we jokingly say, from Salt Lake City. What is it? What is this discovery?
Yeah, well, that's the trillion-dollar question. So redox signaling molecules are made in every cell of our body. So redox signaling molecules are native, and it has nothing to do with nutrition. Inside every cell are little biomachines, and some of those biomachines are called mitochondria. So the mitochondria are constantly putting out a substance called ATP, which is cellular energy. It's the fuel that fuels all the other biomachines. In order to produce that ATP, that ATP is made from redox signaling molecules. So the word signal is an important piece of the puzzle. So redox signaling molecules are messenger molecules. They are communication molecules. They literally signal the cell. They alert the cell to good things that are floating by in the blood and lymph and say, oh, let's take in some of those nutrients. So they're taken into the cell with the help of the signaling molecules, not only to signal that we want those, but to signal the openings on the cell membrane to let those materials into the cell. And then as the cell is going through its life cycle, damage is occurring almost on a constant basis. But the cell has the ability to detect the damage as it's occurring and correct the damage as it's occurring. And it's able to do that through the mediation of redox signaling molecules. So redox signaling molecules are literally the most fundamental actor in the physiological dance. They're the tiniest component inside molecules, which are components inside cells. A cell is a ginormous thing compared to a redox signaling molecule. Most redox signaling molecules are only 2 atoms in size, 2 or 3 or 4 atoms in size. When I make this description, I use the analogy of standing outside of the gates of a city. And you and I are standing outside the gates of the city. The city is a cell, and you and I are little redox signaling molecules. But literally in chapter 5 of Gary Samuelson's most recent book, which is called A Journey of Discovery into Redox Signaling Biology, the title of chapter 5 is Redox Signaling Molecules Mediate Everything. And so without redox signaling molecules, nothing happens. And everything that happens inside every cell of our body is happening with the activity of redox signaling molecules. So it's very, very important. The most important thing.
So explain the salt water thing. It just says it's made from salt water.
So if you were to examine the chemical composition of the fluid inside of our own cells, you could make the conclusion that it's salt water. So the redox molecules are manufactured out of the salt water inside of our own cells. And that salt water solution of that cellular fluid is something called cytosol. But essentially, it's salt water. And so to manufacture redox signaling molecules, we begin with deionized water, purified deionized water, and sodium chloride. Four atoms, hydrogen, oxygen, sodium chloride, and I believe nitrogen is a 5th element or atom that is used in a pristine saline solution put through a highly patented electrochemical process where those 5 atoms are broken down into their subatomic particles. And this is where I stop in my ability to describe things. Beyond that, it's beyond my pay level. But those subatomic particles are reconfigured into redox signaling molecules, and that is the breakthrough that has led to this incredible product that we have.
Maureen, how big is that discovery? How big is it, what we have our hands on? And could you please just cover, because you and Lee are on the medical advisory board for ASEA. Can you please just restate our medical claim?
Absolutely. It is not, this is not a medical product, even though the science is so compelling and the power of the product is so compelling that many medical professionals are attracted to it. But we're not here to make any claims, medical claims to diagnose or treat with these molecules. What we are doing is arming, like Russell said before, when you give the body what it needs, what it wants, what it's looking for, it's able to use its innate knowledge to heal the body and to do the things that it needs to do to function optimally. So all we're doing is boosting up that volume of the signaling between the cells. Because as Russell was talking about the different toxins, the diet, and even the toxins in our own body as we're going through metabolism, those things can cause us to be out of balance. And so what we're doing is we're putting the body back into homeostasis. We're amping up the volume so that the cells can do their job better. This is huge. This is foundational. This is kind of the missing link that, you know, we know if you exercise and you eat right and you drink water and you sleep and you do those things, you should have good health. But most of us don't. And sometimes we don't even know that we don't have good health until we get a bad diagnosis. So, you know, the greatest thing that you can do for yourself, the absolute best thing that you can do for yourself is to start with the redox, get that on board, and then every other thing you do is going to have a greater impact. So I think this is huge. If you don't mind my just taking a moment and ask about Gerd. And so I would love for you to speak, Russell, a little bit about how reflux is, how it responds to the redox molecules. And also, if you wouldn't mind taking a moment and just talking about what you think is maybe the most healthy diet. I mean, there's a lot of different diets going on out there, a lot of different people saying different things. I know I do keto, other people Mediterranean. You know, can you weigh in on that for us?
Sure. Thanks, Maureen. So what's interesting about GERD is a fancy term for acid reflux, and acid reflux is a fancy term for heartburn. Whereas my old Italian uncles used to say a little agita. So what's so of course, redox plays a role in that, but the number one cause of heartburn or acid reflux is chronic unintentional dehydration. Doctors always assume, or many doctors assume, that the reflux is happening because the body is producing too much acid in the stomach. But typically, what I've found over the years is usually what's happening is that person is underhydrated and their body is not producing enough hydrochloric acid or weak hydrochloric acid, okay? And the other thing is that because that same person is underhydrated, they're not producing enough digestive enzymes. And if you don't produce enough digestive enzymes, then you're not going to break down protein in the stomach. And if you don't break down protein, you're going to have acid reflux. So, and the relationship to redox is if you're properly hydrated, then the redox signaling molecules can help to produce the digestive enzymes out of your pancreas and out of your liver. And one of the studies showed that clearly, that by drinking 8 ounces of Asea every day for at least 8 weeks in a row, your body has an increased ability to produce a better quantity and a better quality of digestive enzymes. So acid reflux or GERD, that's at the top part of the digestive system. In the same way, proper hydration and restoring redox potential can address and resolve that problem. It can also address and resolve other problems all the way through that entire digestive system. In terms of healthy diet, or the diet that I promote, you know, I've been involved in this world for over 45 years. And the diet that I first learned 45 years ago, and the diet that I recommend today is still based on the same principles. And, you know, probably the closest thing to it would be the Mediterranean diet for people who live in Europe. And for people who are in Asia, it would be the Okinawan diet, you know, that type of thing. But basically the diet that I believe is most appropriate for most people is the diet of our ancestors, and not 1,000 years ago. We only have to go back a generation or two before the Industrial Revolution, around 1850. So if we could go back in a time machine to 1800 or 1750 or 1700, anywhere on the planet, you would find that people were consuming a diet that had not fundamentally changed in hundreds, if not thousands of years. So cooked whole grains, cooked beans, lots of cooked vegetables, root vegetables, cruciferous vegetables, green leafy vegetables, vine vegetables, fermented vegetables, you know, dry roasted seeds and nuts, fresh fruit, animal food, small amounts of real quality fish and fowl and turkey and beef and lamb. So the whole cornucopia, you know,
But Russell, the dirt was different. The soil was different back then too.
Absolutely. Yeah. The world only knew organic agriculture until very recently. So yes. So yes, the soil was very different. You know, I've lived in New England the last 30 years of my life, and it's difficult in parts of New England to grow things even in your own backyard garden. The soil is not very good. So when the early settlers discovered, when they went west of the Mississippi and found the amazing, you know, 12 inches, 18 inches, 2 feet of topsoil in the Midwest, that became the greatest producer of food the world had ever seen. So yes, the health of the soil is absolutely critical to healthy food plants. And that's the primary reason for purchasing organic quality foods, because not only is it missing the herbicides and pesticides and fungicides and things like that, but organic farmers conscientiously develop and build the soil. And healthy plants only come from healthy soil.
I'd like to go back and maybe just tie a couple things together that you mentioned, and there's a couple comments and, you know, questions about intermittent fasting and other things. And I think that, and this is where Asea, you talked about it being one of the 7, you know, pillars, an important addition, but it also ties them all together. And it's because it goes back to this why salt water question. You know, it's because out of salt, these signaling molecules are used by nature to conduct the affairs of the cell. They start in the mitochondria, they're created there. They're actually created from reactive oxygen species. And as then they have effect in the cell, they can activate specific genes on demand so that we can respond to situations in the moment. And one of those is, as we've seen in the literature, anybody can see this at the amazingmolecules.com website. You can go down to the bottom, and there's a couple of articles there on the antioxidant effect and the antioxidant summary, and you'll see that they've shown that redox signaling molecules will stimulate the NRF2 pathway, and it diminishes the NF-kB pathway, which is the inflammatory cascade pathway. And the effect of that is that it creates glutathione and superoxide dismutase, and those are the inside the body antioxidants. You've talked about micronutrients and macronutrients. Well, those are all plant-based, and we need them because they provide building blocks. But any plant-based antioxidant has a limited ability to reduce or quell the effects of an oxidized environment. Whereas an endogenous or an internally generated antioxidant, such as glutathione, can cycle millions of times over because it has its own enzymes that will allow it to recharge, basically. And so it can continue to work and work and work and work, and it will only do it when it's needed. Whereas a plant-based provided antioxidant molecule is basically top-loaded. You're just taking X amount, whether you need it or not, and whatever is left over, you pee out, you know, and so people talk about expensive urine, but the point here is that the metabolic pathways that arise from lifestyle medicine, lifestyle health practices, including things like intermittent fasting, herbs, even some biophotonic, pulsed electromagnetic frequency, exercise, nutritious, colorful diets. All of those things have an effect on the body because they affect the mitochondria and make it more efficient in producing those native redox signaling molecules. The breakthrough here that you've identified in your 7th pillar is that we can replenish that. We can restore and fill up the gas tank, as it were, of these molecules that we tend to lose because of toxicity and lack of sleep and so forth. So this has been very stimulating. It's like you're a wealth of information, and the whole gut health topic matter is really getting short shrift. I think it's going to, in the next decade, we'll get more attention given to it because of the functional medicine focuses that are coming out and the research on biomes. I heard Dr. Zach Bush make a comment once who said nothing is toxic to a body that has a healthy biome. Now, maybe he was being a little hyperbolic, and maybe that was a little overstated, but I thought, wow, that's a pretty powerful statement. If you can get a healthy gut, at least there would be far fewer things that would remain toxic to us.
Yeah, Lee, that's great. And I don't think it's hyperbolic, because 80% of the antibody producing components of our immune system come from glands in the small intestine.
Yeah.
So if the microbiome is really healthy, it has a direct relationship to a healthy immune system. And so within reason, within boundaries, I mean, obviously if you're flooded with toxins, then your body could be overwhelmed. If it was just such an extreme overload of toxins. But under normal circumstances, and again, with a normally functioning immune system, that immune system can handle pretty much anything that would come in that wouldn't belong in the body. So I agree with Zach Bush on that. It's interesting that you brought that up and brought up the microbiome. A few people in the Asea community knew I was going to be talking tonight, and I kept getting texts today from people who are taking Gary Samuelson's class, and apparently today he was talking about the microbiome. So that's great. And I'd also like to share that one of the great pleasures of my life the last 7 years was to attend the Integrative Healthcare Symposium down in New York City with my dear friend, Dr. Rob Ward. And we did this every year together to increase our knowledge of functional medicine and meet with all these amazing doctors and researchers. And the major topic at the Integrative Healthcare Symposium, and that is the annual summit for all the top, functional medical doctors and functional medical researchers. The #1 topic the last 5 years has been the microbiome. And so whether the person was talking about heart disease, they would connect it to the microbiome. Whether they were talking about Alzheimer's, they would connect it to the microbiome. So whatever the individual topic was, there is a relationship to the health and strength and resiliency of the microbiome.
Awesome.
Everything is downstream of the microbiome. Wow.
Russell, what's your summary statement? What do you want to say that could have a major impact in someone's life right now?
No pressure with that question, huh, Jim?
None. Actually,
what Ann just shared, I think, is the summary statement. We have something here that is native to the body. No one can be allergic to it. No one can be reactive to it in any negative way. It works 100% of the time on 100% of the cells in 100% of the human bodies or animal bodies or plant bodies that you put it into. And you can drink it or you can apply it topically, but it will 100% of the time restore normal functioning to every cell that it interacts with. And that is the breakthrough, and that is the game changer.
5.5 years ago, I didn't have too much hope. And I was addicted to pain pills. I have had 10 back surgeries. I was addicted to pain pills. I've had 6 levels fused in my lower back. I had gained a lot of weight. And because someone shared this with me, my best friend shared it with me 5.5 years ago, it gave me hope back. And there's so many people that I believe are lacking that. And if we can just get everybody on this call to get people to come on next week, when we got Dr. Richard Michael, MD from Duke, we can change the world. Because I started taking this within 3 months, I have no discomfort in my back. And I was off all medication. I haven't been sick in 5.5 years. And a bad dog bit me 3 weeks ago, and my hand, you can't even see the scar. If I showed you a picture, it's rather repulsive. Right. But what we have, Russell, is hope. It sounds silly, but by golly, it's real.
Amen. As a good friend of mine said last week, the miracle, this is definitely a miracle, the Asea, but the real miracle is reaching out to someone else.
That's right.
Close it out there. Maureen, what you going to say, girl?
Hey, I was just going to say, share it. You know, don't be a secret agent, guys.
Yeah,
if you care, you go share. Love a friend, share Redox. Lee, anything?
No, just say I thank everybody and honor them for spending an hour with us and hearing some great information.
Yes.
Go to amazingmolecules.com, real redox results. You're going to learn more there. Love having you be with us. We'll see you next week.